friends, and welcome to another episode of Fairytale Friday. Today, I'm going to read you an old tale of Sleeping Beauty. Once upon a time, a king and queen longed for a daughter with all their hearts. When at last the queen gave birth to a beautiful baby girl, everyone celebrated. The king was so overjoyed that he decided to host a great banquet, the grandest there had ever been. He invited all the fairies in the land, except for one. She was a miserable old crone who hadn't been seen for so long, everyone thought she had died. The banquet was a huge success, and a splendid time was had by all. Everyone thought the new princess was the sweetest baby they had ever seen. As the night drew to a close, the 12 fairies stepped forward to present the little princess with some special gifts, as was their custom. The first fairy gave her the gift of courage. The second gave her intelligence. The third gave her kindness, and so on, until the newborn was blessed with many of the most desirable virtues. But just as the 12th fairy was about to present her gift, the 13th fairy, the mean old crone, stormed into the hall in a terrible rage. "How dare you not invite me?" she screeched at the king and queen. "My gift to your daughter is a curse. When she has turned 15, she will prick her finger on a spindle and die." The 13th fairy disappeared in a cloud of thick black smoke, and the entire court gasped with horror. The queen turned ghostly pale with fright. However, there was still hope, as the 12th fairy had not yet granted her gift. "With my powers, I can make sure that the princess doesn't die," she said. "Instead, she will fall into a deep sleep that lasts for 100 years and will be broken by true love's kiss." The next morning, the king and queen issued a decree that every spindle in the kingdom should be burnt. They hoped that this would put an end to the terrible curse that hung over their beloved daughter. In time, people even forgot about the curse, and the princess grew up to be every bit as brave, kind-hearted, talented, and charming as you would expect a girl blessed by fairies to be. But one day, just after she had turned 15, her curiosity got the better of her, and while exploring the castle, she found a spiral staircase she had never seen before. It led to a small room at the top of a turret. Inside the room, there was an old lady spinning flax on a spindle. She was really the cruel 13th fairy in disguise. The princess had never seen a spindle before and was eager to try her hand at spinning. But as soon as she touched the spindle, she pricked her finger and immediately slumped to the floor in a deep sleep. The wicked fairy disappeared at once, and as she did so, she used her cruel magic to spread her curse across the whole palace. The king, who had just returned from a hunt, fell asleep next to his horse in the stable, and all the horses in the stable fell asleep too. The queen fell asleep while sitting on her throne. The cook in the kitchen dropped the chicken she had been plucking and started to snore. A maid dropped the dishes she was washing and fell into a slumber. The dogs in the courtyard and even the doves on the roof all fell asleep too. One by one, every living thing in the castle fell into a deep and dreamless sleep. As the years passed, a tall, thorny hedge grew up around the castle so that you could see only just its highest turret poking out above it. Occasionally, daring adventurers who had heard tales of the beautiful princess trapped inside a lost castle in 100-year sleep would attempt to hack their way through the thorns, but they didn't get far. At last, when the 100 years were almost over, a prince was journeying through the kingdom and stopped at a local inn for refreshments. Over lunch, the innkeeper told him the legend of the cursed princess. "Only a fool would dare to enter the forest, for thorns will trap them there forever," said the innkeeper. "I'm not afraid," said the prince, who loved a challenge, and he set off in the direction of the hidden castle, determined to save the mysterious princess from her endless slumber. When he reached the edge of the thorny forest, he drew his sword to cut his way through and was surprised to see the thorns turn into wild roses. and the tangled branches separate to clear a path before him. He walked through the forest to the castle and was amazed by the strange sight before him. Everyone from the stable boys to the king himself was fast asleep. He walked past the sleeping queen on the throne. His footsteps echoed loudly in the silence, and at last he found the princess, who truly was a sleeping beauty. In fact, the prince found himself so in awe, he couldn't help but kiss her. In that very moment, when his lips touched hers, Sleeping Beauty opened her eyes, as did the king, the queen, the cook, the maids, the horses, the dogs, and the doves. Indeed, everyone in the castle sprang suddenly to life, and every room was filled with noisy laughter and chatter as people stretched and yawned and wondered how on earth they had ended up on the floor. The prince took Sleeping Beauty by the hand and led her to the throne room, where she was reunited with her mother and father, and they all lived happily ever after. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Fairytale Friday. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Till we read again.